I think it all starts with the idea that we were our own customer.
We should give anybody a reason not to buy our game.
Trends are unavoidable, regardless of the industry, culture, or era. It's basic human nature. We see someone do something that works for them, so we copy it. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and of all ideas to imitate in the gaming industry, Alex Seropian's principle is one of the greatest missed opportunities. In 1994, Bungie was a tiny developer making games for a computer selling 10 times less than its competitor at a time when the system's maker was crumbling, and when gaming was being exposed to a title that dominated the market to a point of steeping into popular culture.
Got it. You guys want to play Doom?
And yet they managed to strike gold with Marathon. Dire times paved the way for creativity, and doubts were taken as challenges to overcome, in an effort to not allow the company's standards to be lowered. Marathon was successful for multiple reasons, from its highly advanced physics modeling and verticality, in-depth story and lore, and the most robust multiplayer feature set of its time, innovating with dedicated maps and real-time voice chat, industry standards to this day. But at its core were the company's ideals and perspective. Both are as rare today as in 1994. That's not to say video games aren't made with consumers in mind. They are. Visuals, features, and designs that consumers consistently spend money on is something that companies pay very close attention to. There are surveys, statistics, and charts for everything, from the percentage of players using a certain character to the amount of times you opened a door. There isn't a lack of knowledge about the consumer. What's missing is perspective. No video game is ever going to appeal to every demographic, nor should one attempt doing so, as there aren't enough hours in the day, hands on deck, or mind potent enough to make that a possibility. But the doubts that Marathon laid to rest were questions inevitably raised during a time when first-person shooters were referred to as Doom clones. More advanced graphics, akimbo weapons, and an in-depth universe brought Bungie's product out of the shadows and into the spotlight, by including features and upgrades gamers desired, but only those that were in sync with Bungie's vision. And that perspective hasn't carried through to the big-budget game. The consumer is seen through a one-way mirror. Everything is done to accumulate any and all items of information about a gamer, except to be on the other side of that glass. In what world is Dead Space 3's microtransactions in sync with the developer's intentions? What plane of existence had people desperately crying out for loot boxes in Gears of War? What horror fan thought a shooter is scarier with a partner? What tactical shooter fan pleaded for expensive in-game or paid items that are only seen in death and at the end of a match? Loot, skins, co-op, headgear, and much more are all things that consumers want, but what's needed is someone with the foresight to know when they're applicable to the experience created. When these features are added into a video game today, the question isn't, does this match with the experience? The question is, how can we make it fit? Halo 5 is an easy example. Do microtransactions, weapon variants, and loot fit into a video game that's about a small selection of weapons and abilities that counter each other? The answer is no, but that wasn't the question raised. Can microtransactions fit is the phrasing, and the answer there is yes. Attached to a unique mode designed to specifically utilize them outside of the core, but yes, nevertheless. Now, it's fair to say that when a franchise has lasted for as long as Halo, Call of Duty, or Tom Clancy, developing and selling a product from an outsider's perspective is almost inevitable. The amount of experiences that all have their own detractors, fans, and time invested is so vast that being able to view your latest project as its consumer becomes tricky. But it hasn't stopped new IPs from approaching their games in the same manner. Destiny, Watch Dogs, and The Division don't confront the common issues of their genres, but merely dress them up in a polished suit, thanks to budgets their precursors couldn't afford. None of them are explicitly bad games, but they're often seen as such due to their derivative concepts. Problems aren't approached with creativity as developers were forced to in the case of Marathon. They're approached with money and polished content that'll look very impressive, even if the experience itself is ultimately forgettable. To make a game through a one-way window is done for business. It's to theorize what an audience desires according to data, because unlike feelings or thoughts, data can be measured. It has merit. Multiple studies have proven what people say often differs from what they do. But video games are entertainment, and to entertain is to make someone feel. To rely so heavily on data is to exclude the emotional component that plays into both one's experience purchasing and playing a game, which is why viewing your own creation as a participant is so important. When something is added to a product that doesn't mesh with the experience, yes, it's not going to ruin it. Rec packs don't make the arena unenjoyable. Headgear doesn't stop my heart racing. Skins don't make the chainsaw bayonet less satisfying, but they don't improve them. Any prejudice someone had against Marathon was countered. Its graphics, gameplay, story, and multiplayer never gave someone a reason to avoid it. And that's the cancerous symptom that stems from not being your own consumer. It assumes that your consumer will buy it, that no matter what you add, no matter what it does, no matter how significant it is, they will purchase your product. Customers may not need much convincing to purchase an indie title, sale, or humble bundle. But when you're charging full price, it is not a casual decision. When 2 video games are out in the same month, most are going to need to decide which one earns their money. They need to be sold. And the first step to inspiring the consumer is to inspire yourself. Marathon wasn't a product of its makers theorizing what feature will attract a percentage of a specific audience. They didn't run surveys or monitor their users. They never looked at their competition and decided their experience needed to echo its style in the hope of leeching off of its success. They made something that appealed to their high standards, which in turn appealed to its consumers. It's important to have people in a project that aren't head deep in the creative process, as it has a potential to lend a more objective and analytical perspective. But that also goes the other way, as multiple projects that have relied heavily on unrelated trends and statistics have often not resulted in notably larger sales. Making a game appeal to a wide demographic is no more a guarantee of success than making a great game is. When creating, be both your own producer and consumer. Because when you approach others, you won't just be telling them how they can play your game. You'll be able to show them why they should. Special thanks to Aiku Patrupai, Ian Williams, Joshua Riddle, Payet Smayat, James, Josh Harvard Marks, Keegan Chua, Chris Wright, Illuvial, Jeff Powers, Michael Rogstad, Tinfoil Pancakes, Trollazone, Mark Mills, Reality Escape, Rob Baker, Aaron Esser, Santa the Grey, Therasul, Comfy Hat, Andrew Kennedy, Tedious Bear, Tierney McCarthy, Rum, Scion of the Emperor, Johan Yang, Osage, The Gaming Badger, Colin McGuire, Jeremy Von Amid, Leonardo de Sidsi, Infamous Sir Hellfire, Frozen Farewell, Matthew Bingley, Kleinstiff, Alex Turnage, Jay Flint, Koo67, Joseph Chung, Matthew McPherson, Darian Desitels, Keaton Butlick, Alex Lamson, and my other wonderful patrons for supporting the channel and helping make this video possible.